are the Falcons going all in? Welcome to That's Good Sports. I'm your football word nerd, Brandon Perna, and you're back, Atlanta. Everyone was behind you when you signed Big Kirko.
Russell Crowe elected not to have surgery.
And I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
And it never got better. So 12 years later, he got surgery.
And rise again until lambs become lions.
So I felt like that was a good argument to get surgery.
Then you took a quarterback at pick 8. And even if that works out in, say, 3 to 5 years, everyone was laughing at you. That changed when you traded for edge rusher Matthew Judon and then stole safety Justin Simmons from the Saints. That's some 4D chess shit right there. Today, I want to break down what those two moves mean for Atlanta and how much better they actually make the Falcons. Plus, bad news for my beloved Bills. Hey, the Patreon fantasy leagues filled up so fast, I did add a third league for all $20 Patreon and YouTube members. The updated third league is on the community tab or over in Patreon. Also, Urinating Tree and I had a joint contest on Underdog Fantasy. That shit filled up in hours. So we're working with Underdog to try and get another contest going. So check that out next week. Hopefully we can get another one up. But we filled up 4,800 slots like that. If you want to play Underdog, just make sure you use my code ThatsGood when you sign up. We have 412 signups. We're at 412. If I get to 10,000 signups, Underdog owes me $1 million. And if you're not rooting for me to get paid $1 million, why the fuck are you here? Why the fuck are you here? Oh, maybe you just don't like daily fantasy, and that's fine too. You don't have to play. You don't have to play. Fuck are you here? Let's begin with the bad news. The bad news Bills. Buffalo standout linebacker Matt Milano tore his bicep and is now out indefinitely.
He'll undergo surgery for this torn bicep and hopes to return later this season, according to Adam Schefter.
The worst part was seeing poor Dion Dawkins get the news in real time.
I don't even know what's going on.
Sean announced that he's going to miss some significant time with the bicep.
Damn. What, like a tear or something?
Yeah.
So, all right, well, that kind of just hit me a little different. So, I'm gonna just go check on my teammate. You know, I don't have no thoughts yet, but that sucks.
That's a real teammate right there. I had to watch that video 38 times before I could talk about this without crying, all right? I had to get it all out of my system. Right now, though, the Bills have $43 million tied up in Matt Milano and Stephon Diggs, who, of course, won't be on the field for them either. That's a lot of money for those guys not playing. And actually, that's more than the Broncos are paying Russell Wilson this season to be in Pittsburgh. So I guess thank you for that, Buffalo. Also, Von Miller shouldn't be on this list. He's going to go off this season.
I haven't felt like this in 2 years.
I know last year was a disaster as he came back from his injury too quickly, but you keep his name out of your mouth, Sneaky Joe. The good news is that there's a chance Milano is back at some point late this season, maybe December. The bad news is this is the second straight season Milano has suffered a major injury and will miss extended time. Last season, Milano fractured his leg in week 5. The Bills' defense is simply a lot better when he's on the field. Linebacker's a weird position now where it seems devalued, like running backs. But when you have a dynamic playmaker like Milano who can do it all, cover and stop the run, you feel the sting of his absence. Now, Terrell Bernard was good last season. He had 8 sacks, is a solid run defender, but maybe questionable in coverage at times. The guy who emerged was Tyrell Dodson, but he's in Seattle now. He actually had the highest defensive grade of any Bills defender from Pro Football Focus, for whatever that's worth. Buffalo drafted linebacker Dorian Williams in the 3rd round back in 2023, and it's on him to really pick up the slack and just break out this season. You gotta break out, Dorian, while Milano recovers. Now, I do have to ask why Matt Milano won't play through the injury, as Gimpy God reminded me John Elway tore his biceps in 1997 in the preseason, played through it, and won 2 Super Bowls.
Good for you, bud.
That's right, John Elway played his entire career without an ACL, and he won 2 Super Bowls with torn biceps. I found this article referencing it, stating in 1997, Elway's long head of biceps spontaneously ruptured. His biceps retracted distally, resulting in the classical Popeye bicep sign. However, his pain rapidly diminished and led to a dramatic improvement in his performance, and he ended up leading his team to consecutive Super Bowl titles in 97 and 98, earning Super Bowl MVP honors in 1998. So I guess Milano isn't serious about winning a Super Bowl. You know who also had 4 Super Bowl losses before tearing his biceps and winning the big one? The Broncos. I'm just saying. Those are the facts. New England. The Patriots appear to be stripping it down to the bones. They have sent edge rusher Matthew Judon to the Falcons. I'll get to the Falcons in a minute, but New England gets a 2025 third-round pick in exchange for Judon, who did miss all but the first 4 weeks of the 2023 season with a torn biceps. Fuck. That's what happens when you flex on your opponents too hard, though, okay? Again, Judon, why didn't you play through it? You would have won a Super Bowl just like John Elway. Now, Patriots fans are trying to tell themselves getting rid of a 32-year-old edge rusher coming off an injury is a smart way to build for the future. And to an extent, I agree. If they hit on that draft pick, sure. Expectations, though, are the lowest they have been for the Patriots since before Tom Brady. BTB, as they call it. The dark times, as they call them. Saying that expectations are lower than BTB is saying something because they were not high last year in the McCorkle era. New England is basically admitting winning is not the priority this season. Judon may be 32, but he's still one of the top edge rushers in the league. In his prime with the Pats, which spanned 38 games, Judon recorded 32 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 133 tackles, 33 tackles for a loss, 4 passes deflected, 2 Pro Bowls, and a partridge in the dying fucking Belichick tree. Now, I'll give Gerard Mayo the benefit of the doubt because he's a defensive guy as a head coach, and frankly, I also like him. But here's what doesn't compute for my brain computer, which operates at a 1998 Dell level. Christian Barmore, currently being treated for blood clots. The timeline for his return, uncertain. He's a big part of that D-line, and with Judon gone, they have no notable sack artists. Maybe Keon White emerges as that dude this season, but there's more question marks there. Barmore was their leader with 8.5 sacks last season. Judon was third with 4 through 4 games. Plus, New England has a fuck ton of cap space, second most right now and the most for 2025, slightly overpaying a veteran who was the best player at his position, possibly the entire defense, isn't a bad move when you're flush with cash. Pats fans are worried about Kraft's son Jonathan right now and his decision-making and how much influence he's having on the team decisions. And rightfully so, because I don't know if Jonathan Kraft is going to be as good as his father. That said, New England's defensive front looked pretty good in their second preseason game against Philly, albeit against a lot of 2s on the depth chart. The winners here are the Falcons, who did sign Justin Simmons after acquiring Judon in the trade. They had a glaring hole at edge rusher, and they fill it with a guy who will more than get the job done, assuming he stays healthy. After a shockingly prolonged period as a free agent, 4-time Pro Bowl safety Justin Simmons has finally found a home. He's headed down south to Atlanta to join the Falcons on a 1-year, $8 million deal where he'll pair up in the defensive backfield with Jesse Bates Motel and one of my favorite corners up front in AJ Terrell. Here's the bad news about Simmons joining the Falcons. He will have to play the Broncos, which I'm going to be honest about, might hurt a little. Here's the good news. He will have a chance to pick off Patty Mahomes for the 6th time. Most among any players in the league. Also, my prediction now, Simmons picks off Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl to win the game for the Falcons. Okay, I'm getting dumb, I know, but I want to convey to fans in Atlanta how much we love this guy, okay? You're going to love Justin Simmons. You better. He's an excellent leader. He's a ball hawk. and he's a pillar in the community. He was the Broncos' best, most consistent player in the post-Manning era, and it was tough to see him go. He arrived in Denver in 2016, which means he was given nothing but disappointment to end every single season here, and he was still loyal to us. Honestly, it was pretty crazy that Simmons was voted the 57th best player in the league by his peers, and at the same time that list came out, he wasn't even on a roster. He's a steal at $8 million a year. At the end of the day, I think Simmons was pretty content waiting until he got fair market value with a contender. Oh, and it probably feels good to avoid most of training camp when you're heading into your 9th season in the league. And Atlanta kept the Saints from getting him. He visited with the Saints first. They had a long meeting, went out to dinner. Everything was going well, but you make sure the Saints didn't get better and improved your defense at the same time. Great move, Atlanta. But let's go back to Judon, because last season, Calais Campbell had 42 pressures for the Falcons, most on the team. Bud Dupree generated 38. In his last 2 full seasons, Matthew Judon had 69 and 64 pressures, which also came with 17 and 14 sacks. Now, the Broncos traded a 31-year-old Von Miller to the Rams a few years ago, and all he did was wreck opposing quarterbacks through the postseason. I'm not concerned about Judon's age, and if he's close to 2022 form, that makes everyone in the Falcons' secondary better. Pressure leads to bad throws or bad decisions. It's, in a lot of ways, more important than sack numbers, and Judon can do both. Atlanta, by the way, hasn't had a guy with more than 50 quarterback pressure since 2020. That man was Grady Jarrett, doing it from the interior. Jarrett's still there, of course, and I think Judon will make his production even better. The last edge defender, though, for them to get 50 pressures was Tack McKinley with exactly 50 in 2018. So this has been an issue for the Falcons for a while now. In just 2 days, the Falcons get a huge boost on the front and back end of their defense. Now, neither are young players, but they're win-now players, and it makes you feel a lot better about them taking Michael Penix at 8 overall instead of what might have been a reach on a defensive player. This is clearly a team that has all the pieces, most of the pieces, necessary to win a less than rugged NFC South. I will now be rooting for Atlanta in the NFC. I know Simmons is desperate to play in a playoff game after 8 years, and I'd be absolutely thrilled to see him do it in 2024.
Who has intercepted Patrick Mahomes more than anybody in the National Football League.
Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please, dear God, subscribe to this YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 1 million subscribers, and we're less than 400,000 away from doing it. Oh, dang, when I say that, that's a lot. I got a long ways to go.